This is your host, Nancy Steele. Welcome to episode 9 of Affordable Italy, Living La Dolce Vita on a Bootstring. Ciao! If expatriation and immigration are on your mind, you've looked at Italy and wondered, is it possible? I did. In 2019, I was certain we could do it. In 2020, the world changed, and due to our reaction to it, our situation changed as well. I was no longer certain that Italy was within our reach. Plus, rumors about taxes and visas had me both confused and worried. Thanks to my favorite podcast, Retire There with Gil and Jean, and a bevy of generous immigrants who've gone before, as well as a personality that tends to doggedly seek to turn lemons to limoncello, my dream was rekindled. I decided to get my questions answered directly from first-person sources already experiencing affordable Italy, living La Dolce Vita on a bootstring. Join me as we explore with expats and experts if a future in Italy could be on your horizon. I really don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but for Gary Modica, completing his Italian dual U.S. citizenship by bloodline seems to have been a passionate pursuit to bring his family name home to Italy. Gary and Eileen are both native New Yorkers, Gary from Queens and Eileen from Long Island. 32 years of their lives were then spent in Arizona, hence the LA consulate was the starting line for their Italian journey. Their blended family, including 4 children and 9 grandchildren, are spread throughout the central and southwestern U.S., which provides interesting perspective for those of us today wondering how a grandparent copes with an ocean between. After 3 years of their roller coaster ride in pursuit of that precious Italian citizenship, Gary received his by blood and Eileen hers by marriage. When Gary had first decided to pursue Italian citizenship, they made an agreement. They would live for 1 year all over Italy. Later, a friend would encourage them to document that journey by writing a book. The promise was kept, and their books, now plural, and blog are wildly popular. Their blog, Our Italian Journey, has been recognized with a Liebster nomination in 2018 in multiple top blog lists for blogs of Italy and received a Best Couples Travel Blog Award in 2021, 2022, and 2023. Their first book, also Our Italian Journey, received an Editor's Choice Award in 2022 from the Reader Ready Awards at authorshout.com. It covers their first year of travel as Italian citizens, discovering by woe and joy all that Italy so richly offers. Their second book, When Your Heart Finds Its Home, is a standalone memoir continuing that journey but with a change in plot. Published in 2022, this book tells the story of building a life in Italy and chronicles how they found their perfect Italian home, albeit not in the town they had expected. Both books, their blog, the travel planners that Eileen designs, some artwork that she has been working on, meaning your photographs of doors, love those, and a wealth of really beautifully managed social media sites will be linked for listeners on our Facebook page and in show notes, which I finally figured out how to link. Eileen worked in the education field in the U.S. and in the pharmaceutical field. I'm absolutely intrigued today to hear her thoughts on Italian healthcare. Gary worked in the electronics industry and as a master club builder in the U.S. golf industry, so we aren't likely to have much to talk about but Italy. But I do know he's particularly interested in Italian wine and food. They promised me that they've been doing a little wink-wink special research projects about wine, which they'll share with us today. And I'm hoping with a slight focus on affordability.
Okay. Yes.
They're now living a rich and they say affordable life in the unparalleled Lucca, Tuscany, while still exploring and sharing. Their joint mission now is to help others toward both citizenship and a life in Italy. And I think I just love that about them. Eileen and Gary, I am in awe of you. The resources you have created are rich and the heart of what you do is so apparent. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Nancy, for having us.
Yes.
Can we just start out today with learning about your journey and how your hearts found their home?
Sure. The journey started in about 2015 when we started really going after the paperwork I needed to present to the consulate. And in 2018, September 11th, I was notified by the consulate that I was now an Italian citizen. Eileen's journey started a week after that when she automatically got citizenship, unlike what it is today, where the wife has to wait a year for the spouse to get the husband to get his citizenship. Then she can apply. Because of the 1983 law, Eileen didn't have to worry about that.
That's because we were married in 1980.
Exactly.
So good for that.
And the other thing we lucked out on is we got our passports and everything in October, November 2018. And in January 2019, Italy passed a law saying you have to be able to achieve A2 language status. But because Eileen was granted citizenship before that, she doesn't have to worry about that. Although she has to go to school.
I am learning, but I don't have to pass a proficiency test, which is nice. Very nice.
Nice. Well, tell us a little bit about how your hearts found home in Lucca, because I understand that was not actually the expected home.
In 2019, we traveled around looking again for our perfect Italian town. And there's criteria for that to make that list. So it had to have a good train line. It had to be somewhat flat, which is not always the case in Italian towns. We enjoy bicycle riding, so that makes it easier.
Bicycle friendly, yes.
We also needed, not remote. I wanted to feel like part of a community, but enabling us to go to the grocery store when we needed to. I also wanted to live in Centro, where Gary would prefer to live, outside in the countryside. We had a few towns that we listed, and one by one, we kind of crossed a few off the list. High on the list was Arezzo, other than it was a hill town. It is, excuse me.
Yes.
But there was charm there, medieval charm, history. We loved the people that we met. It was on a good train line. It did not, though, have enough English spoken for me. And while learning Italian, I'm comfortable still having a conversation in English, that I'm not always having to learn or struggle. When we came back in 2000...
Yeah, April 1st, 2021, because the apartment we wanted in Arezzo was rented, I said, let's go to Lucca. Something about this town I love, and this was my number one town. I mean, I would love to live in Florence. Florence is wonderful.
We love it.
But I don't want 480,000 neighbors. I like this little town, and I fell in love with Le Mura, which is the wall.
Yeah.
And Lucca, to me, well, to both of us, I'm sorry, is miniature Florence. Yes. It's got Renaissance, it's got art, it's got music, but ends up on a smaller scale.
More manageable. Very much more manageable.
Okay. So we realized within a month that Lucca's it, and started looking for a permanent apartment.
I absolutely love it. I mean, I'm already sold. We could stop the podcast right now with your description of that. In that journey, even stepping back from when Arezzo was picked, was affordability a part of that decision making, or was it really just regional and then eyes on Arezzo, eyes on Lucca?
Affordability has something to play. I mean, there are towns near us that we can't even think about because of the rents, and buying is out of the subject. But affordability is very important to us. I mean, we're both retired, so we have a limited income. Food is not overly expensive in any part of Italy. I don't care where you go, it's about the same. Wine is affordable in Italy. I don't care where it is. You can find good, affordable wine. Importante.
So important.
The restaurants, you got your high end and your lower end, and there's a need for both. But overall, living in Phoenix, Arizona, I would say living here is at least 40% less every month.
And you're in the north, a reputedly
and
much more expensive area. Yeah, I mean,
and Tuscany is always considered expensive. And don't get me wrong, there are definitely places that we could not afford to live in Tuscany. But Lucca is affordable. And again, we don't want to be house poor, so we are renting right now. If a fabulous deal came along, we would consider purchasing, but our rent is relatively low considering some of our friends, but we only have a 1-bedroom, 1 bath. We're how many square meters? 75?
Well, he says 75, the county says 60. So
okay, so we're in a small apartment. The selling point for us for this apartment was our 340 square foot terrazza.
Yes.
That is unusual for inside the wall of Lucca.
Okay.
That's like having another living room 9 months, almost 9 months out of the year.
Oh,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Were you able to anticipate costs in that housing costs in addition to what rent would be in terms of what you'd spend on insurance or utilities, that kind of thing? Did you have any surprises there?
Let me just say that the first year that we were in this apartment, we sat with jackets on, not scarves and hats, but a blanket over us, because we were concerned with the electric prices in Italy. They are higher than most other countries.
Yeah, but then Ukraine started too, and Russia choked them out of gas and fuel.
Okay, let's not get political.
We got it's the truth. So
I'm in agreement. My hands up.
the price of fuel went skyrocketing.
So we were very, very frugal the first year.
What changed?
Then I had a discussion with my landlord, and he told me about a company called Edison, similar to Con Edison on the east coast of the USA.
Ironic.
Same company, biggest producer of gas and electric in all of Europe. And he took me to meet with the representative, and I signed a 2-year contract, guaranteed prices. The company we had before that, prices would vary depending on what they were being charged at that time. Edison, being a big company, bought a lot, akin to an airline buying a year's worth of jet fuel versus buying it when they
and being able to regulate it themselves.
Yes.
But a lot of renters are not aware that there are other companies available. Now, some renters actually pay the landlord their usage. Our landlords, lovely Italian couple, they had the utilities put in our name. We had to put them in our name. And so we have the availability to change. And this year, in fact, we just got our
electric
July and August electric bill, which we were concerned about because our youngest daughter visited and she wanted the air conditioning on 24/7. And it was a hot 2 weeks in Lucca.
It was a hot July and August.
True. And so we cringed when the bill came in, and with the new company, and also our landlord replaced our air conditioner units. So it was older. He did replace it this year when it was having a bit of an issue.
Yeah, it died.
So, okay. So between the new company and the new efficient air conditioning unit, our friends can't believe our prices. So our electric bill for 2 months now, mind you.
Peak summer months was 176 and change euro.
That's incredible.
Oh,
we have now, a lot of our friends have bigger apartments. Again, remember, we're in 65 square meters. During the day, we don't usually put on the air because we have a lovely breeze that comes through. We're very lucky that way.
Yeah.
But €165 for 2 months of electricity. And then our gas was,
it was 25.50 or something like that. Yeah.
It was crazy.
Ridiculous.
That is amazing.
So you can, if you're able to research companies, you can get a decent deal, even with, expected high prices.
Yeah.
In a time frame that everyone is complaining about those rising costs, that is an amazing electrical bill for running AC.
Yes.
Yeah, we ran it almost every night. And some nights while watching television, we even put it on to cool us off. And it's amazing what the bill came to. I mean, we used it more than we ever have, and it was cheaper.
That is amazing. Oh, good. And such a great tip for people who are looking to rent, to do that research rather than just assume that you're stuck with whatever.
Stay with that company. Correct.
Another one of those valuable things that you guys are doing with teaching, and I so appreciate that sharing of information.
But that's what we love. Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. So important to have those who've gone before. You mentioned weather, and I know this was an intensely hot summer for Italy in comparison to, for Europe, in comparison to previous years. Actually, the planet, I just saw a headline this morning that said this was the hottest summer on record for the planet. Tell me a little bit about weather in general. How long is your winter? What's the high? What's the low? Do you get snow? And then summer, what that looks like.
Winters are generally, by some standards, pretty mild. I mean, the majority of number of days are going to be in the mid 40s with the nights going into the mid 30s. Summers, you're going to be,
we had a beautiful spring this year.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Summer is going to be around 100 in the high 90s, mid to high 90s. And at night, it gets down to about 70-ish in that area. So summer nights are pretty cool.
But the average, I would say, are in the 80s for the summer. It was unusual hot at the 90s, but I would say average 80s.
Okay. Yeah, and high 80s, low 90s. Yeah. Say, okay. Spring and fall are gorgeous. Today, for an example, high was 70. The low tonight's probably going to be 61, 60.
And we're in the middle of September. Now, November is notoriously rainy for Lucca. And Tuscany.
Yes.
And so November is quite rainy and cooler weather. For us, the summer doesn't bother us, I think, as much, other than the humidity, because we're used to the hotter temperatures living in Phoenix for 32 years.
Yeah, so dry heat's so different than humid heat.
It is. Yeah. It is. We do feel the humidity. But I think we fare better in the summer, but I don't do as well in the winter. My friends make fun of me. I always have a scarf on, regardless. I've been known to have one sometimes in the summer now. So I guess maybe I'm really Italian.
But that's a fact.
No, not always. But the winters, I feel the cold. I really feel the cold. And unfortunately, our kitchen it's not the usual setup. So we're on the first floor. Underneath us on the ground level are storage units. Of course, they're then nice and cold.
Oh, they're not heated. Yeah.
They're not. So the storage units are below our kitchen. Then we have 3 large windows, 1 small radiator. And then the couple above us, it's their terrazza. So we are exposed to the elements. Sorry, we're exposed to the elements in the kitchen.
I think the ghost just showed up.
And you were apologizing to it.
We should say it in Italiano. Yeah. So the kitchen is very chilly. So in the morning, so we did buy a space heater this past winter, but the year prior, we would look at each other. Are you going to make coffee? Are you going to make coffee?
Oh, no.
We had to decide who was going to go in the chilly kitchen to make coffee in the morning.
Okay. Now, this winter, I am very much looking forward to, since our new outside unit is heat and air. I'm looking forward to putting that on in the living room, we normally put a screen up to keep the air out of the kitchen. Take the screen, open the screen, let the hotter air flow through. Curious to see what that's going to be like.
You guys have really done some fine tuning there that's both made you comfortable and not killed you with electrical bills. That's awesome. Yeah. And again, good to know that even with a rental, you can make some changes to make life more comfortable. Good.
Yes.
How long is that cold stretch, that cold season?
I would probably say November through February.
Yeah, the end of February can actually be pretty pleasant.
Yeah, so
it's November, December, January, say February. So 4 months out of the year.
Okay, and snow?
Thank goodness snow.
Hasn't yet. I've seen pictures of a dusting, throughout Lucca, and it looks gorgeous. I can't wait to see it.
But out on the hill. So when I get on my bicycle, bicicletta, and go to school, I travel the wall up on the mountains outside of Lucca. You can actually see the snow on the mountains. It's beautiful. Yeah. So it's close. Very rarely did I ever hear that it snowed inside Centro.
Yep. Keep it where it's supposed to be, out there on the mountains. Picturesque as you ride by. Absolutely. Did you guys, or has Lucca suffered natural disasters? And I'm wondering particularly about the flooding that happened last spring, so widespread across the middle and north of Italy.
We did not get that, but there were last year some fires that outside of, in Lucca province, but outside of the wall, Centro Storico. And when we ride along the autostrada, you can see the damage from the fires. Yeah. And about a week, we had actually the smoke coming through Lucca, Centro. And
it was pretty heavy.
it was concerning.
Okay.
Yes, but other than that, no, nothing. We're not on a major earthquake line or nothing
Okay.
like that.
Nice. And fire's going to happen anywhere.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And especially as things get hotter. That bicycle wall, I have to divert to that for a moment. I was doing a little bit of reading about Lucca, and I understand the difference between thin walls and thick walls, which Lucca has, is being medieval versus Renaissance. And you mentioned Lucca as a mini Florence. As a Renaissance town, they actually fortified those walls so that they were super thick because weaponry was different and there were more long-range weapons outside the wall. So my understanding is you can actually bicycle on the wall. Talk a little bit about
Absolutely.
that. And I know you guys use bikes to get around and
Yes.
get groceries or to go to the doctor. So
Yeah. It's 2.5 miles around. And actually, a lot of bicyclists use the wall for training. So you'll see them in their little outfits, helmets on, and they go flying by you. I mean, they're very conscientious of you. But so Lucca has actually been a training ground for cyclists.
I mean, obviously, walking on the wall is a favorite pastime. They have yoga classes on the wall.
oh man.
Yes, we do. Gary has not attended.
No, and I won't.
I'll
They
do it with you.
we just had they did, what would you call the Vikings to the,
Oh, so they actually created a time clock, they
yes.
called it. And on the wall, they had World War II. And then you moved, that was at 12 o'clock, I believe. And at, let's say, 2 o'clock, there was another event from a certain era.
So what I'm saying is the wall is used for special events, and it's just suits it so well, really.
So this past weekend, we had a sports event up there, and they had jousting, and then you could walk further, and then they were teaching boxing, walk a little further. They had something to do with,
I don't know, I wasn't there.
oh, that's right. Sorry. They had all different sports events. And then we watched paratroopers come in, not in the wall, but outside the wall and land. That was all part of an event. And sometimes it's very difficult to keep up with all the events in Lucca. I belong to like 5, 6 Facebook groups just to keep up on all the different events that are happening. It's crazy.
So the continuation of learning there is really intriguing too. And being a cultural center with incredible history, it was the city of 100 towers, right?
100 churches.
100 churches. Oh, okay.
Yes.
The Renaissance history there is so rich. As I looked through, there were a million things I could do. And I thought about you guys, that you may just want to climb that beautiful tower on a Saturday or whatever, go up and look at the view with the trees above you, etc. They tell us as seniors that we should be looking for places to retire where our minds are stimulated. And I can only imagine the cultural things that are there for you guys to explore.
Puccini was born in Lucca, so there's always music events going on.
We have 9 music schools in Lucca.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
And then there's always an art event somewhere along the line. And it's truly special. And Gary, of course, very much loves history. And so that wall that you can write on is the Renaissance wall. Now, there are still pieces of the medieval wall within Centro, and there's even just a few areas of the original Roman ruins inside the wall. But Gary's favorite subject about Lucca is that the Medici from Florence never conquered Lucca. They never made it inside the wall. So it's kind of special to him because, of course, if you know history, they took everything they wanted to, but they never conquered Lucca. So that's our special piece of Lucca, is that the Medici were never here.
And that says a lot about Lucchese's.
Absolutely.
Lucchese people are stubborn. They are steadfast, and I mean, they know what they want. To this day, if you live outside the wall, you're considered stranieri, which is a stranger, and inside the wall, you're considered Lucchese.
You know, your description of the Lucchese actually fits your choice. You guys might just have been a little bit stubborn and a little bit steadfast to move through that process of the Italian citizenship.
Don't forget, I'm Sicilian, so.
This is true. In bringing your name home, It might have been to Sicily, it sounds like, but it sounded like language being maybe the thing that in the end tipped you guys more towards the north.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of gave in to Eileen on that. My choice was Sicily. I'm not fluent in Sicilian, but I understand it as a language easier than the Tuscan Italian that you learn. Okay. But for her, there was very, very little English spoken, and it would have been culture shock. We would have been back in the States by now. So I gave in. I can put up with Tuscany. There's some really good wines around here.
You suffer well. You suffer
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Well, in conversation of things to do, let's also look at natural beauty around you. Talk a little bit about what people do there in terms of enjoying what nature provides.
There's so many hiking trails outside of the walls of Lucca. We have a Roman aqueduct that, in fact, I went on a hiking trail, and you can actually bicycle from Lucca to Pisa if you wanted to. I have friends that have. The hiking alone, the mountains that are, around 20 minutes, we get on a train and we're at Via Reggio, which is a beach town. And they have a beautiful promenade with stores and restaurants all along it. What we loved about Lucca is the train line. So we could get in on the train and go to Florence in an hour and a half, spend the day and come home. We could go to Via Reggio, like I said, 20 minutes. And from there, we can go up and down the coast, the West Coast, going up to Cinque Terre or down to Roma. Again, that was important for us, not having a car. And we still ponder whether we should or not to do some day trips. But right now, we're still okay traveling by train. It's our preferred method of travel.
Okay. And I know one thing that Gary loves is the wine region and researching wine. So I did hear that might have been one of the limitations that you find in not having a car, is that the train doesn't generally take you to the wineries that you might want to go to. So tell us a little bit about.
He had you say that. He contacted you and had you say that. I know.
I would like to go back just one step to the history that's available. Obviously, you have the Etruscans, the Romans, the Renaissance, but something that a lot of people do not know, that during World War II, the Buffalo Soldiers, the black soldiers that had their own regiments and they liberated Lucca from the Germans. There's a little museum. There's a thing called the Gothic Line, which the Germans built up to stop the Allies from going further north in Italy. But I was shocked to find out about the Buffalo Soldiers and how they actually were formed. And then they were basically just came to Lucca.
Lucchese loved them.
Yep. To this day, they have a celebration where the city just opens up to any Buffalo Soldiers that are still alive.
Oh, wow. What time of year is that?
That's normally, I think, in July.
Okay. Wow. That's really special.
Yeah, and I didn't expect that here. I really didn't.
No, the depth of things like that we as outsiders don't understand, whereas that's the gratefulness from their hearts must be overwhelming history in those families that is passed down. But we as stranieri don't necessarily get to ever know that unless you live there, which gives you depth that the rest of us can only look from the outside in until we follow your lead.
Right.
So about wine, Gary, tell us a little bit about how you scratch that itch.
All right. How do you scratch that itch?
Oh, too many ways. Too many ways. I used to just drink inexpensive, cheap wines in the States from like Trader Joe's or even Total Wine and More. And I've gotten an eye-opening education here on wine. You don't need to buy the highest priced wines, the most expensive prized wines to enjoy it. There's, a lot of people say, well, is it a DOCG, which is a designation, or a DOC? Some of the best wine I have had is what's actually defined as a table wine, an IGT. If it tastes good to you, buy it.
Yes.
Don't worry about what the label says,
the rating.
Or the rating. If you like Chianti, you don't necessarily have to buy the Chianti with the rooster on it, which is the Classico. There are very good local Chiantis that aren't in that designated area, but they're still darn good and they're not expensive.
Nice.
Remember when we were staying 90 days in Verona?
Oh, yeah.
And we would go to the grocery store and there would be a wine for 99 cents.
What?
€1. And I'd say to Gary,
On sale.
On sale, yes. A euro. So we buy one to try it. We go home, have it that night, of course. And it was delicious. So we would go back to the store the next day and buy whatever they had left. And sometimes that was 6 or 8 bottles, just because it was so inexpensive and delicious.
Oh my
So
goodness.
we were so surprised at some of the prices for very, very good wine.
You can shop around and really get some very good deals.
Amazing. Oh, that's just incredible. And my husband and I actually wanted to go out last night for a drink before, we came home and had our evening. And I thought about it for a few minutes. We're taking off just a few weeks for an Italian trip. And I said, you know what? Let's not. We can probably have 4 nights out with a glass of wine or something in Italy comparatively. So we came home and just waited, right? The lifestyle, the pleasure of life that affordability offers you is amazing. Really amazing.
We love sitting on the main street in Lucca, is Via Falungo. And we have a bar that we love the couple that runs it. They're a young couple. It's called Vinarchia. And we have, I guess it's our table, basically outside. And we've been known to just sit there and enjoy a glass of wine or a Aperol Spritz, Prosecco. And by the end of the evening, friends have gone by, seen us stop. They also have it. And our table continues to grow through the evening. And sometimes we're there and there's, 6, 8 of us. Some were just riding by on their bicycle and stopped. And, it's that type of life, the relaxation that drew me to being inside the walls in Centro. You can't have that experience being out in the countryside.
No, I'll grant you that.
So that's some of the best parts of our day. And sometimes it's 2 and 3 times a week.
Oh, I love it.
It's Italy's cafe culture.
Yes.
And it's the same thing if you go to one of the bars in the morning. That's where you get coffee. Okay.
Correct.
You're not drinking that early in the morning. But you'll be sitting outside, like this one place we go to a lot, Punta Zero. People will come by and say, can I join you for a coffee? Sure, sit down, have a coffee. It's the cafe culture here. It's wonderful. It really is.
The relationships.
To Italy, yes.
So tell me what you're into in euros for your aperitivo evening and your coffee morning, your cafe morning.
Oh, cafe is so cheap here. Cafe could be €1.20.
Yeah, I meet a friend of mine, Jim, once in a while for coffee. We'll each have 2 coffees. I'll usually have a cornetta. He'll have something else. And the bill is like $9, €9.
When I meet my friends, I'm under that. I'm in the 5-6 euro. So
I'm talking about for the 2 of us, not me.
Okay.
For the 2 of you. Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. Yes, that's crazy. With the cornetto. Wow.
Yeah. Now you can go a half a mile away and have the same coffee and the same cornetta, and you're going to pay 13, 14 euro.
We have some fancier places in Lucca. We don't usually.
One will be $25 to $30.
You go to where you're comfortable and where they know your name. And yes.
Yeah.
Now aperitivo. If I don't run into my friend Jim, we can get away with maybe 2 drinks, €20, €25. If we have a charcuterie, that's another 15. Relatively inexpensive.
Okay.
I run into my friend Jim. It's a $75 bottle of wine and
a little different budget for Jim.
Yeah, a little bit different.
Okay. Tell me about restaurants there. Low end, high end, what's available? Because there's so much tourist interest also, I'm assuming that the range can be broad and some of it might be targeting tourists.
We actually have a Michelin star within the wall, a couple outside the wall, but one inside. We have been there.
Service was horrible.
Not our cup of tea. Not our cup of tea.
Food was good. Service was horrible.
We have same places. We keep saying every month we're going to try a new restaurant every month, and we still wind up going back to our favorite places. Yeah. It's difficult, but seafood. If you want seafood, there's that available here. Very good traditional Lucchese food. So a tortelli, which is a meat ravioli with a meat sauce. Very, very good here. Chingali, which is wild boar, very easily found. So, and it's seasonal. That's what I think I love the most about being in Italy is, right now we can't find, what was I looking for at the grocery store? I wanted oranges, and there were very few oranges right now. Well, it's not orange season. Squashes are now available.
The one thing about Italy is they want to sell Italian produce. So unlike the United States that gets it from Mexico, Peru, or Chile, whatever. They will buy very little fruit and verdura, fruit and vegetables from other countries. That's why Italy is season, because what's in season.
So your zucchini flowers, you have to have in the summer. You're not going to have zucchini flowers on the menu in December. That won't happen.
And healthier for you, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are there markets close to your house?
There are. So we have the standard grocery stores. There's a couple inside the wall. But we also like to go to some of the little markets. They're organic markets. They set up their tents on Wednesday, just around the corner from us. There's one Wednesday and Saturday just outside the wall, always in Piazza Napoleon, which is Piazza Grande. There's occasional markets. Artesian bread right now is being sold. A couple of different booths for that. You never know what pops up here. It's quite amazing. And we English speakers have a tendency to let everybody know. So we have a couple of, WhatsApp groups. And if I see a chocolate fair going on in, let's say, Piazza San Frediano, I let the group know. And it's a great way, for people that don't get out every day, it may be there just for the weekend. And so we all tell each other what we have found, what we see, where there's a sale that you can't miss. It's a wonderful community of expats here in Lucca.
Yeah.
Right. And so important to have that connectedness with people there. How about the native Italians? Do you feel that you're accepted into those circles as more than stranieri? Are you developing deep and meaningful relationships with people of Italian heritage?
We have. Maybe not as many as we'd like because, not being fluent in Italian, it's hard to carry on a conversation. But I think we have done all right.
Yeah.
I think my teacher makes fun of me because she tells me, Elena, you don't speak Italiano because you have too many Americani friends.
Uh-oh.
And so she is right. But even our Italian friends, they want to practice their English. So I think I'm doomed. But yes, I think we're accepted here. Our neighbors are very kind. And I have a gentleman down the street. We've gone from 2 years ago to, not catching eye to eye to a head nod to buonasera. And he stopped me the other day while I was down at the fountain and started a whole conversation of which I was lost and had to tell him no capisco. He spoke to me in a whole conversation.
They're to me, Lucchese are very accepting people. They have their circle, okay, and they don't let everybody, I should say, in their circle. So when they do put you in their circle,
it's special.
That's very special,
right.
Really.
And that's how we feel with the couple from Vinarchia. We were invited to their wedding last year, along with our friends that we're close with. So we were the only 4 Americans, even though technically we're Lucchese. We were the only ones that were there, other than their Italian friends and family. So it's special here.
Yeah.
I wonder too if their history with being more insular and, the Medicis not being able to infiltrate, etc. I wonder if that carries over today, where maybe they are a little bit tighter in their circles and it might be a little bit harder to break into those than in some other areas.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You just can't go up to a group of Lucchese, just start talking to them. You can go ask them a question. That's fine. But when you do get in, it really is something special.
It sounds like it. Your story is intriguing to me, and in just hearing some comments that you've made before too on this topic. You've got 9 grandchildren in the US. That's amazing. And one of the things that not only do I see other people talking about in immigrant forums relating to immigration to Italy, but also in my own heart of hearts, I want to know, how do you guys function with that? What have you done to help maintain those close relationships and ties? Any wisdom and insight to give to those of us who are looking to be an ocean away of those precious littles that we love so much?
Well, I think I have some insight because that was a problem for me. And Nancy, we have news to say that we actually will have 10 grandchildren in February. We have another one on the way.
Congratulations.
Unexpected.
Love it.
That was one of my concerns. It's so difficult to just see photos of our grandchildren, playing soccer or baseball and know that we should be there. But when we were there, they have their lives too. And that's how I had to look at it. They had friends to see or sleepovers on the weekend.
Exactly.
They had clubs, ballet and baseball and football. And so when we were there, they had their lives also. So yes, it was easier because I could get that hug around my neck or the squeeze. I do miss that, but we video chat and try and keep in touch that way. I find it very difficult to see sometimes some of the social media pictures and not have it weigh heavy on my heart. But both Gary and I looked at it and said, this is our time in our lives. We've worked hard. We raised families. This was something we always dreamed about, and we worked hard to make the dream come true. I don't know how we could give it up. And I'm not saying that maybe we will always live here. I don't know what the future brings, but we've been able to balance a little bit of it with social media, with, I should say, technology.
Yes.
Technology, yes.
And it has made it a little easier for us. Now we are going back November to the end of December for the first time for Christmas to see everybody. And
actually, it's going to be our first Thanksgiving and Christmas back.
Correct. And so, we knew we'd have to make that voyage sooner or later, but it is something that I would say to anybody listening, you have to do for yourself also. Yes, I will not say that it's not difficult. I will make light of that. It is, but it's something that Gary and I have decided that we needed to do for ourselves, for each other.
So I have 2 grandchildren who are in Las Vegas. I'm in Denver. I have 2 here that are very close to me on the other side of the wall. We bought a property with them. So yeah, we see them all the time. Right? But my 2 in Las Vegas, my heart still pines, and we're still using technology, and they do have their own lives. And this is part of, our conversation to each other is there's no guarantee as time goes on that we would be seeing them all the time. Yes, the distance is further. It's more expensive to get them over to Italy or us over to the US from there. But I feel like there's no guarantee of what that closeness physically looks like anyway. The kids can still move.
And I think also too, it's what you make of your time together. So when we plan to go back, we will spend some quality time with each of them and create more memories.
Yeah.
And I think it'll make that quality time be more meaningful for them and for us, I think.
Yeah, I love that. My little granddaughter in Las Vegas wanted to record with me. So we actually did recently, and I told her we'll publish that. But it's going to be projecting those feelings from the child's side about, and of course she's 2nd grade, so not really understanding the distance, but understanding being separated from her Maymay. So that will be fun to share from the child's perspective. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah. And I saw pictures on your blog of you guys making pasta with your grandkids. You've given them, as far as I'm concerned, probably the greatest gift other than love than a grandparent can give, which is Italian citizenship, and helping them to see the way to what may be in their future.
Our youngest daughter just applied for citizenship.
Well, she applied a year and a half ago.
Okay. But she
That's just though, right?
She just received her Italian citizenship and Italian passport. So it is something that can be passed down to different generations.
Yeah, what makes me feel good is she didn't have to go through a lot of what I went through. Now I'm the starting point for the rest of the family now.
Yes.
So my grandfather did his job. Without Pop, we wouldn't be here.
That's true.
And now I'm the starting point for the family. So any of our grandkids or kids that want now have to just go through me, which makes things a lot easier.
I wish that we had that for our grandkids, but no.
Yeah, I'd have loved to have had it that simple, but somebody's got to do it.
Right.
Yeah, it's got to start.
Worth wanting that much is worth fighting for.
Exactly.
Not that we fought, but seems like it.
It probably felt like it sometimes.
It did.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about what travel is like outside of Italy. You guys have great train service there, which is a huge criteria for us as well, to reach places within Italy, and you're just so centrally located. Everything is right there. I'm assuming you've got local buses as well as buses that would go to regional areas. But tell me a little bit about what it's like to get out of Italy and share how visiting would work back and forth between U.S. family and Lucca.
Well, the majority of our grandchildren are very young, 10 and under. So for them traveling, they, of course, would need their parents. Well, the families are all 5 or 4. So it's a little bit more difficult for them to travel because of the number that would, flights are very expensive right now.
I was going to say, and the affordability, because it's ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
But for us in Europe, traveling to other countries is really quite wonderful. There are inexpensive fares. I mean, you have to watch, but we could country hop very easily.
And you
so
do.
We have started that.
I loved your Portugal coverage.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. But for our grandchildren to come, we actually, Gary's daughter had planned for her and her 2 children, again, older, to come over the summer. But the flights were just so incredibly expensive. We couldn't wrap our heads around it.
Yeah.
Those are the grandchildren, though. It's such a long flight that I don't know that I would be comfortable with them flying by themselves from Phoenix to, there's always a layover. So I don't think I'd feel comfortable with that.
Maybe when they're older.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We're not going to say, if you want to see us, you have to come here.
No,
that'll never happen. Never.
Yeah. So you'll be able to go home and visit. Talk to me a little bit about deciding to age in place, or you mentioned you don't know what the future holds. So clearly there must still be somewhat of an open door in moving potentially back to the U.S. I know Pete and we would love to think that we'll age in place and perhaps make our final days outside of the U.S., but that isn't always necessarily the way that things happen. We could see our kids having some problems with that. One or more of them may have actually discussed that. So we're planning on keeping our Medicare coverage, which is so expensive and not useful while we're outside of the country. Do you guys have plans about aging yet? Have you made decisions about insurance, that kind of thing, that hook you still to the U.S.?
We gave up Medicare.
Okay.
Because Medicare does absolutely nothing for us here.
Correct.
And I didn't just do that on the spur of the moment. I actually spoke with people at Medicare, and they said, well, yeah, why would you have us if we can't do you any good? I mean, really, we're both on the Italian health system network, which is free to us, and we know how to use the system here, and it's a lot easier than using the system in America. But my biggest concern used to be that if you gave up Medicare, they would only charge you a 10% fee if you came back. Instead of paying, say, $200, it would be $220. Well, that changed, and now it's 10% per year, up to 100%. So that $200 would now be $400. But like the person on the phone said to me, and he said, and I'm not saying this to you if you get my drift. He said, they can't do anything about it, and they won't. He said, even if you come back and you fight the cost, you'll prove to them you had insurance, you'll prove to them you were covered, And, you said the one question I always tell people to use is, where in Europe can I use Medicare?
Is where what?
Where can I use Medicare?
Oh,
And the answer is going to be nowhere. So
I love that little tidbit there. Thank you so much, Gary, because we're just chickens. We're chickens about everything. I'm always at the most conservative end and no risk tolerance whatsoever. So that we need to also look into that. Thank you for that.
People have this misconception, I think, about healthcare in Italy. Yes, it's not straightforward all the time. If it's not an emergency, you may have to wait a little bit. Gary needed a cataract operation. He had one eye done in the States and he had one done here. Now, we did go not through the system. We did use a private doctor, but it cost us 120 euro.
Yeah, for the visit to the
specialist.
Oh, okay.
And now he's the same guy that did the operation. So the operation we put through the system.
Okay.
Correct.
And it cost me nothing.
So private for the consult and then the operation through the system. So yes, just so listeners understand, Gary and Ilene are not having to pay an annual percentage of their income for the Italian healthcare system because of that, once again, absolutely precious citizenship status.
Absolutely. But Gary actually enjoyed, well, as much as you can enjoy a surgery, he enjoyed the process in Italy more than he did in the States. He had to be put under where Gary was awake here. It was a completely different procedure, same good result, but a whole lot less money. Now, for example, I had a procedure done before we left the States. I had a molecular pucker in my eye, again, another eye story, but it cost us $4,000 because we could not afford insurance for myself in the States. My friend had the same, almost exactly the same.
We had insurance in the States.
Oh, but it was catastrophic.
We had to have a $25,000 deductible.
I totally understand how you would see that as not being insurance. Hello, my hand is once again up.
Absolutely, my mistake. Our friend here had almost identical situation, and it cost him 30 euro to have the same procedure done as if for me in the States, $4,000.
These are precious comparisons, right? I
mean,
exact same scenarios.
It's apples and apples, and it just is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm assuming that Lucca has your primary care probably right, if not within the walls, probably not far without. Where are the hospitals? How far are you from hospitals? And have you guys had to access any kind of hospital care?
Yes, we had. Well, Gary had his operation for his eye.
And that's about a mile outside the wall.
Yeah,
Nice.
we actually rode our bicycle, not for that procedure, but we have gone there. Yeah, there's a couple of clinics inside the wall. So we had a friend that had knee replacement surgery. She was doing physiotherapy inside the wall. She didn't have to go outside. And we've had some friends with some issues and all been handled very, very well here.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's a huge kicker for us is healthcare in America. It just does not make, it doesn't make sense for us to stay.
It doesn't make sense for us to go back for that either.
Honestly, that's what I was wondering if you guys were going to touch on that. Yeah.
I don't see, like I said, like we talked about earlier, I don't know what the future brings. I don't see myself going back. That's difficult. It kind of pulls at my heartstrings a little bit. I mean, the United States is my birthplace, but it no longer feels like home, Nancy. It's a place for us to visit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I hear that. You can't help but as a grandparent, if you've opened these doors for your grandkids, and even with us, without being offered citizenship lineage for our kids, I do daydream and wonder if the exposure would not end up landing them in Italy, even for school. You know, we've got 9 music schools there. You guys might want to think about sending some instruments over. But you know what I mean? To actually impact them in that way, to help them find the beautiful life that you have.
Yeah, I like to sum up the medical field very simply. Okay, in America, it's for profit. In Europe, it's for patient.
Oh, yes.
And that makes a big difference. It really does.
Absolutely. I was an oncology nurse and I got towards the end of my career in the hospital. I would come in and jokingly say them because I knew this was going to be an issue and an attitude from people. I would say, "Hi, I'm the nurse for this computer tonight. I'll be checking in with you occasionally to see what I can do to satisfy the needs that this computer has," because the other side of that is always liability, which documentation now has become a huge issue because of liability.
Yes.
So it's not only for profit, it's against liability. There's just so many
Mhm.
levels of what's wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
So not
Very
to dwell
true.
on that, but yeah, it does impact the care there. So what are people doing in Lucca, inside or outside the wall, for aging in place if they can't do it at home, or if they can do it at home? Actually, I'm aware with the concept of badante, which if you were in America, the average person could not afford to pay someone to live with them full time, or, to come in multiple times a day to help bring care in. So I guess I'm curious, what does it look like in terms of in-home care, or are there facilities for people who would like to age in place but can't take care of themselves at home?
We have a very, very good friend and one of the top restaurant owners here in Lucca. And his mom is in a center here inside the wall.
She's 92.
She's 92 and he's able to visit her, and she has very good care.
Mhm.
And then we'll see walking down the street some elderly people with a care person with them, making their walk for the day or whatever. So there is care given. I can visually see
Yeah.
that. I don't know too much about the system on what's available. I do know it's here. I know it's here in Lucca, inside the wall, as well as outside, I'm sure. So
We have no firsthand experience with it like we did with Eileen's dad in the States. I hate to use the term old age home, but
assisted living.
Okay, there you go. So we really don't have any of that firsthand information here.
Other than our friend.
Other than his mom. And Tuesday she loves to have pizza, so he goes and gets a pizza, and they go up and he sits with her and she has a pizza. I mean, it's the same as what we did with Eileen's dad.
Okay.
A lot of older Italians, though, stay in the home, and the children then start taking care of them. And I'm sure there's a government program that allows that and helps with that.
And the grandparents help bring up the children.
Kids,
yeah.
I mean, you see that
grandkids
all the time.
especially, yeah.
Yes, you see that all the time. The grandparents pushing the stroller, all during the day.
If I see somebody that looks like they're in their 80s and they're pushing a baby carriage, I either want to know what vitamins he's taking, or that's the grandfather.
And is Florence your closest airport?
No, actually, Pisa is our closest. But we're actually closer to Pisa, but we can use Florence just as easily.
We touched briefly on real estate, but we didn't go in depth on that. I kind of had wanted on this show to make time for the grandparenting expertise that you've got, because that's really important. I think we can talk about finances all day long, every single podcast, but you're not always going to find somebody who's already been open about that. But I would like to, if you guys are aware at all, talk a little bit more about real estate and prices. Are you aware of what things are going for in terms of rent? Most people are looking for a 2-bedroom. I completely understand your desire to live in a slightly smaller apartment with that large terrazzo. That would actually fit us better, I think, than a larger scenario. We actually live tiny in Denver. We lived tiny in New Orleans. So it's not unusual for us to choose that. Are you aware of what rent would be like for a 2-bedroom-ish in Lucca now?
Sure. 2-bedroom, 2-bath, depending on the situation. What I say when I say that is, if it's ground floor, first floor, you're going to pay more than if it's second floor, fourth floor with no elevator.
Yeah.
Normally, I would say 2-bedroom, 1-bath, maybe 2-bedroom, 2-bath. You can get in the $900 to $1,100 range, €1,100 range. I'm sorry. If you want.
Oh, there's a $1.4 million place that's for sale. But I mean, there's some beautiful villas inside the wall.
We have friends that are paying $1,200 to $1,500 for really well done 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Usually at that price, you're going to have an elevator or a lift.
And they do.
And so, again, it's relative. What are you going to pay in the States for that same scenario? And if you don't want to live in Centro, you want to live just outside the wall, you could knock $200 to $300 a month off
Easily.
Very easily.
Yes.
All right. And how about buying? You mentioned that you guys might think at some point about investing in real estate there. So I'm assuming you're keeping your ear to the ground a little bit to see what's happening there.
Oh, yeah.
Always. Unfortunately, the market inside the wall is very limited these days. Lucca kind of exploded a bit, and what used to be available is no longer available.
Yeah, they're not building too many 600-700-year-old apartments anymore.
And the world is worse for it, let's face it.
I know it is. I love living with 2-foot solid cement walls. It's different. It's gotten very expensive. You're looking, an apartment like ours is probably going to sell somewhere in the $225,000 to $250,000 range. It's going to be fixed up more than this one is, but a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, you're looking at minimum $350,000, up to the $575,000, $600,000 range.
In the wall.
Inside.
Outside the wall, you'd probably find the same thing for €100,000 less.
And I think it's important for people to weigh that we are again talking about Tuscany, and 200 to 250,000. I don't even know what you would buy in Denver for 200 to 250,000.
Very cheap. Very.
Yeah, it's all relative.
We just had a couple that they actually read our book, and 2 years ago we met them, and we happened to be sitting at Vinarkia, and she was still working. And she looked at me with a straight face, Nancy, and she said, "I want what you have." And I said, "Well, there's no reason you can't have it." So they were going to go to Siena to check it out for a couple of days. And the next day she texted me and said, "We're staying in Lucca and we're going to find an apartment. We're not even going to go to Siena.
We want to buy an apartment.
We met them for a cocktail that night. I think within 2 days, they found a place and said, "We bought it."
Oh my goodness.
And because there is a pull here. I can't explain it all the time, but it's a charm. It's a culture, like Gary said. It's a way of life that is just charming.
It's what pulled us in.
Yeah, I think so. But
okay.
Here they were, they didn't even consider renting. They wanted to buy, and God bless them, they could do it, so.
I have to tell you guys, I'm afraid that you've had a bit of an impact on Lucca, because I belong to so many of those Facebook immigration groups relating to Italy. So many people are moving to Lucca. I mean, it's Lucca.
Yes.
Right, Lucca.
Our English Monday group meets once a week, and if you speak English, you come 2 hours, 4 to 6. Anyway, yes, a couple of the administrators shake their finger at us that it's all our fault, and it is certainly not all our fault.
You're having an impact, though.
But I can't say that we haven't added to the ambiance and the awareness of Lucca.
Yeah, and I'm gonna actually take that and segue into my thoughts and feelings on your blog. As somebody who struggles with tech, I am amazed at your blog. If I want to look at towns that you've visited in southern Italy, I don't have to scroll through pages and pages and pages to find what's relevant to me. I click on your link for southern Italy, and up come those places that you've covered on your blog. It's beautiful, it's accessible, it's rich. I cannot strongly enough recommend that people check out your website.
That's all.
He's pointing towards Eileen there.
It is a full-time job. I'm not quite retired yet.
No. So in terms of your books, the 2 of them, I am so far behind on my reading. With every interview I do, there's something else I need to not only research, but there's usually a book or something associated with that. So I'm going to gift myself one of yours. Which one of your books would you describe that somebody in my setting, where I'm not yet, ready to apply for the ERV. We're waiting for both of us to pull Social Security to be able to qualify for that passive income requirement. Which book should I start with, and tell me why?
I would definitely say Our Italian Journey, because it really is the start of our journey and how we struggled with, could we leave family behind? When your heart finds its home, we've already dealt with those issues. So it is a little bit, even though it's a standalone memoir, it's still further along in somebody's journey. So definitely I would recommend Our Italian Journey first. Yeah. And what I love is when I get a text or an email and somebody will say, I bought the Kindle version because I wanted it right away, but then I had to buy the paperback because I wanted to earmark and highlight and make notes. So why I bought the Kindle, I don't know, other than, I didn't have much patience, but I needed both. And we just laugh at that. It's funny to us that people are using it as a travel guide, which we really never
intended to do.
That wasn't the intention at all.
That's good information for me, because I will definitely buy the paperback version. Also, because I'm not using it necessarily just for travel, but for what you've recommended in there in terms of moving and earmarking those areas. That's really good information too. All right.
We also have a new project we're working on, which we won't reveal to you. I'm sorry, but we are definitely way out of our comfort zone on this one. And we hope to get this project completed within the next 2 months. And but it'll have to do with the first book, Our Italian Journey. And so, I'm
excited to find this out. Listeners, this is September 22nd, 2023. So we can plan on checking in for sure and getting that good news in November, I'm hoping, of this year. I'm very excited.
I'm hoping before November, but we're shooting for that. Yeah.
Okay. Piano. Excellent. What is something that people should not miss about Lucca if they are entertaining the thought of actually looking at Lucca, now that they know that it may actually be affordable to live in an incredibly historic town in Tuscany, which just shocks me. What is something they should not miss about Lucca that really makes it unique and special?
I would definitely say the wall, Le Mura, first and foremost. Taking a bicycle ride or a walk around, there are passageways underneath the wall that many people are not aware of. And we take people that read our book or our blog subscriber, and we'll take them through a little walking tour. We have one tomorrow, by the way. And we always take them underneath the wall because it's unique. This is how Lucca moved armory and food and ammunition, troops that nobody could see outside. And some of them are closed off, but some of them are open, and you can walk from the inside the wall to outside, which in the Renaissance time you could not, but it's wonderful. So definitely the wall. Gary and I just got season tickets to the Calcio Lucchese team. So soccer. So we have sports here. There's so many museums. I would definitely check out Puccini's home. He was born inside the wall. His home is a museum, and it's quite unique to see.
We have an opera house.
Not
a great one, but it's an opera house.
We have several movie theaters. We have inside the cathedral, which is the Duomo, we have a wooden cross that is one of the oldest in Europe.
It's the oldest.
It is the oldest.
Yes.
Okay.
It was sculpted by Nicodemus.
And so the Volto Santo right now is being restored. So he is out of his, I don't want to say cage. It's a beautiful tribute. It just happens to be all surrounded by iron. He is being worked on right now and restored, but it is amazing to see. But also too, there are so many great day trips you can take. Just recently, I got on my bicycle and got on the train with a friend and got off at a nearby town, Borgo Manzano. And we bicycled to the Devil's Bridge. Again, has history and legend. Yes. There's just so many day trips you could take from Lucca. So Lucca is a great home base. You run out of things to do here, I can't imagine, but if you do, there are great day trips. Yeah. Monte Carlo, very famous wine, just up the hill.
So if you want to narrow it down to what makes Lucca attractive, simple one-word answer. Lucca. this town will speak to you in ways that other towns don't.
I think so.
Oh,
I like that.
that is absolutely beautiful.
It's
I'm
copyrighted.
going to use that. I want to use that.
It's copyrighted.
Oh, fine.
No, of course you can.
That's cute. Yeah, and you wrote your books together.
We did.
Yeah,
We did.
that's
We
amazing.
alternated chapters, and it was fun most of the time.
Most of the time. And I see that you alternate in the blog too, which is also nice to get both voices. Yeah.
Well, mainly her. I've
Okay.
got mainly her.
Okay. But I have
Needs-
seen you.
Yeah, he needs to step up a bit, but yes.
Right? You said writing the book was fun. If you call root canal fun, okay.
It took a couple who are authors, Nancy and John Petrillia. It took them to suggest to us to write our first book. We would never have thought of it or considered it, but it was their suggestion. We read their first book and were encouraged and went to Parma because of it. And this is how people that you don't know affect your lives. They touched ours. We've touched theirs. It just spreads, and good people will do that. Well, I'm considering that we're good people.
Yes.
It will do that for each other. And
Yeah.
so we've become very, very good friends. But it started with them with a suggestion.
Right.
Yep.
And so that ball has bounced because you have helped so many people with both your blog and your book.
We love to pay it
Well,
forward.
that's part of life. And if you're not willing to do that, then don't do what we're doing.
Amen. I love that heart. Thank you. I also want to thank Gil and Jean of Retire There with Gil and Jean for introducing me to this lovely couple, Ilene and Gary Modica of Our Italian Journey. They knew that these guys would be a great fit in terms of affordability in the shocking region of Tuscany. Anything else you guys would like to add? I have so enjoyed you. Seriously, you guys have been a beacon for many.
Well, if anybody is venturing to Lucca, if we're here, if we're available, we're always willing to give our
Yeah,
time.
contact us.
And-
Don't say, oh, I thought you were busy, so I didn't want to bother you.
Yeah, our email is on the blog. You can contact us, and we're always willing to help with advice or welcome you here to Lucca.
You are going to be busy for a while from what I've seen on social media.
Yes.
Better contact them early, folks, and get it on the calendar. Well, grazie mille. Thank you so much.
Nancy,
Great.
it was a
It was a
pleasure to meet
pleasure.
you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing this with us.
Yeah.
Oh,
We-
gosh, thank you.
So-
Let's keep in touch. We aren't headed
love
to
it.
the north this visit, but we'll get there. And definitely Lucca. I am so intrigued now for Lucca.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please like us and subscribe for more. We will continue to explore regions, towns, taxes, and tips here and on Facebook at Affordable Italy, living La Dolce Vita on a bootstring, at Instagram under the same name, and eventually ItalyIsAffordable.com. If you know anyone who is living in Italy who'd like to converse with me, I'd love to meet them via my email, ItalyIsAffordable@gmail.com. And now for that much anticipated limoncello. Chin chin!